Now, only last week we were talking about large screens, whether it makes more sense to go with an LED screen or a projector.
Now, of course, the projector would make more sense, and for the price of a 75-inch LED, you could actually get an entire home theatre system.
Exactly, which is why my colleague Anand had a chance to sit down and chat with Nishant Padhya. He, of course, the editor of What Hi-Fi magazine, and they've come up with all the options available when it comes to home theatres and what you need to be mindful of.
So Nishant, in our previous episode, we were talking about if you're investing in a big screen and you're looking out for that 75, 85-inch LED TV, you will have to shell out a lot of cash. Somewhere,
a lot of it.
Yeah, somewhere upwards of 5, 6 or even 15 lakhs if you're going for the 4K versions.
Absolutely.
Now, we were talking about if you're buying this as a second screen, buying a home theater setup might make sense because it'll be at half the price. What do you think of that?
I completely agree with your thoughts, Anand. In fact, in case you are in the market and you want to spend a sizable amount of money, like you said as an example, say about 8 lakhs, I think you should invest in a projector and a much bigger screen, because if you have a projector, you have the flexibility of going down from say 60 inches as the lowest point to maybe about 300 inches, if your wall or your screen supports that. So you have a lot more flexibility, a lot more range depending on in which room you want to place the projector. If you have a dedicated purpose-built home theater room, I think it's perfectly apt.
So for lesser money, you can get an entire home theater setup, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So what are the elements that you feel are absolutely necessary?
Well, for a home theater, if you have a room, which I think that would be the first point. I mean, if you can spend about 15 lakhs on a home theater system, try and devote a room or at least a space in the room for a dedicated home theater, because that will just change the entire equation. You'll be a lot more immersed and involved into the experience as opposed to people moving in and out and having a common area. So the room is very important. Apart from that, obviously the hardware. So you have the projector. A screen is very, very important, which a lot of people overlook because people just assume that if it's a projector, you can project on a blank white wall.
Yeah.
But I think that's really bad, and it's very, very poor installation and very lazy.
Yeah.
So a screen is very important. The hardware like the amplifiers, the speakers, and a good source, because again people overlook the fact that you need a good source to feed into the projector.
Let's keep a budget of say 3 to 4 lakhs, because we are out here to prove a point that within that kind of money you can get a decent setup. Let's look at that kind of setup within 3, 4, 5 lakhs, and then why don't you suggest after that your ideal setup?
I think I'd start with the BenQ W1070 Plus, which is also wireless ready and also has a great feature called side projection, which means that you don't need to have a purpose-built room like we were talking about earlier. You can actually place a projector on a side stand or a desk and still have a completely centralized picture. So I think it's a great starting point. It's a great projector for about 1,10,000.